doing these boxer drawings and paintings. What a perfect combination of you
Put this all
two.
together.
That's awesome.
That's sick. Sculpture.
I figured I'd share that with you. I've done the Rock'em Sock'em one other time before. You can see him over my shoulder. Little guy. Yeah, I'm hoping we'll have some more jump on. We talked about doing this like next week or the week after. Then I got to thinking that first everybody's snowed in and they're not likely to be out running errands or doing things. So I thought that's a good opportunity. Then I didn't want to wait too long because when people are able to get out, I want them to be able to go by Turnip Green and check out the exhibit in person. And let's see, Mike, you haven't been to the exhibit, have you?
Not physically yet.
Of course, Destiny, she filmed the interview that we did in the space on the opening night. Of course, Jennifer.
Yeah, Destiny.
Yeah, she did a great job. And then, so Christopher, you're in Memphis, so I doubt you've been by the gallery.
Yeah, I haven't been anywhere lately. So
have you? Did you know that you can go on Turnip Green's webpage and you can actually watch a video of our interview with Chris and Aaron, and it shows the space. And Turnip Green also has Matterport, which is a kind of like a Google Street View. You can go through the gallery and turn and zoom in on things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
check that out.
So sick. So sick. It's like a 3D view.
Yeah. You know what? I guess I could drop that in the comments. Let me pull it up. I had it pulled up somewhere.
On the website?
Yeah, I got it off
Find it for you,
social
Randy.
media, I guess. Here it is.
You got it, Randy?
I got it.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop it in the comments right now. Done so many Zoom chats, I'm actually getting decent at it. At least finding things. So there you go. There's in the chat, I put a link to the Matterport. So if you want to take a tour of the gallery, you can do that. And I just want to continue a conversation that we had during the opening. Just talk a little bit about, I'm hoping, so we'll share this again, right, Mike? Are we recording this?
I am recording it. If everyone's okay with me recording it, we can then just make this available on Number. And awesome. Randy, if you don't mind, since we are recording it, we can start off. If you'll start off talking about Turnip Green just as a board member, and then Number as well, and then I'll jump on, introduce myself about just Educators Cooperative, and then we'll just dive in from there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to do, just in case we had people watch it later, especially those that aren't familiar with Turnip Green. It's Turnip Green Creative Reuse. Jennifer probably could do a better job of saying who they are and what they do. She's there every day, but I've kind of been in the mix with Turnip Green since it started, when Kelly and all of us were in Untitled Artist Group. But basically it's a creative reuse. People donate goods that would otherwise go into landfills. Turnip Green finds new homes for these things, either through artists or teachers. And we have programs that teach children and adults how to creatively take those items and make them into things that could be artwork or consumables of some sort. I've noticed a post today about somebody taking clothing that's been donated and kind of reworking it and making it into something new, which is really cool. So yeah, you can go to Turnip Green as a consumer, and it's a pay what you can. So you don't have to go in there and spend a ton of money. If your budget's kind of limited, go in there and pick out the things you want, make a donation in the amount that you can afford, and then take those products and do something great with them. You can also bring products in to donate. I don't, if we had Leon here, I know she had another thing going on at this moment. So she could tell you how much pounds that turnip green is kept from going to the landfills, and it's a huge number. I mean, huge.
I mean, this month alone, or I should say this year alone, I think it's been over 20,000 pounds we've diverted so far.
There you go.
So
Yeah, isn't that amazing to
Mhm.
think all those things might have otherwise been in the landfills. So
Mhm.
it's cool to be a part of that. And Mike also mentioned this conversation we're having is part of a podcast thing that we started before the pandemic. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened soon after we started it, called A Number of Coffee Conversations for Number Inc. magazine. And Number Inc. magazine is a publication that's been around for, is it 30 or 40 years, Mike?
It's 32, 33 years, somewhere around there.
Okay. So we've had 104 publications. And over the last year, of course, we haven't done the last few in print. Before that, they were printed. And it's a quarterly magazine. We pay writers. They would come up with a theme, or we come up with a theme, still do that. And people would submit articles or writings of art shows, exhibits, artists, studio visits, things like that. Very interesting the way it's curated. And of course, we want to continue that. And over this last year with the pandemic, without putting it in print and distributing magazines, we're trying to build a stronger online presence. So these conversations we're going to be having, similar to this one, we hope to do more of. And we want to encourage people to submit ideas to Number via the internet and with your story ideas. I know, Aaron, you're a journalist too.
Yeah.
We talked about that in your interview, that not only is he an artist, he actually went to school to be a journalist.
Life has changed.
Life changes, but I noticed the first thing he caught when we posted about the event today was that there was a typo, and I was like, oh, there's the journalist in him coming out.
That's just the copy editing, just like
That's right.
Like the way that my brain just like looks at sentences, I just like it breaks down, you know. So that was just because I was doing that so much in school. So
Oh yeah. And I noticed Mike just put the numberinc.org website, and so we got all that information there. Okay, Mike, I'm gonna let you talk about who you are and about the
Sure.
early.
Like Randy, I'm a board member of Number Incorporated. Randy's also on the board of Turnip Green Creative Reuse. I am a Turnip Green Creative Reuse customer and supporter and advocate. So I've worked with them and then used the shop for at least 8 or 9 years, and so big supporter of them. Number Magazine also recently, one of the things that we want to push towards is more event style things like this, but also we just co-hosted with Tennessee State University the art writing symposium that we'll start now doing annually. So just trying to encourage writing about Aaron's work and Chris's work and everyone's work here in town. So if that's just to look forward to that. There's going to be more of that happening with Tennessee State University and Number Magazine. I'm also on the advisory committee for the Educators Cooperative, who we are using their Zoom link tonight, and we're so grateful for them. Educators Cooperative works with Turnip Green. Turnip Green's actually going to be at our Ed Camp Nashville event on February 27th on a Saturday. They're one of the nonprofits who usually is there. That'll be virtual this year. If you know educators in and around Nashville, all through the state of Tennessee, please point them our way. We are a group of public, private, and charter school teachers that ignore the toxic conversation above our heads politically about where people send their kids to schools. And what we do is try to say, man, Christopher's doing really cool things down in Memphis. What is he doing down there that could help us here in a charter school in Nashville? Someone in a charter school in Murfreesboro might be doing something that could be really helpful to a public school with someone in Knox County Public Schools. And we just trying to connect those teachers and collaborate. Like, my friend Brandy Hodge, who teaches at Murray County and Mount Pleasant Middle School, just hosted an event on the Educators Cooperative platform about using pixel art in math to teach her students. So if you know educators, please point them our direction. We're a big supporter of Turnip Green, and we're also working with Number Magazine and Randy through his board membership through Turnip Green to kind of try to start creating helping push all three of those organizations, because we're all really doing the same thing, is that we're advocating for creativity throughout the state of Tennessee and certainly in Nashville. So Randy, I would love for you to introduce the artist. I'll continue to let folks in. And I think one of the things that's great about this conversation is it's going to be a nice intimate conversation with the 7 of us, but also we can really push this out. I know that when Randy and I do these in the past, we always get hit up by twice as many people afterwards saying, did you guys record it? So it's going to be fun to tell them this time, yes, here's the link, Turnip Green, they're welcome to put it on their website. We can do it on Educators Cooperative website, and then we can do it on Number Incorporated on all of our social media stuff. So Randy, take it away.
Yeah, I want to mention too that you can also, same thing with Turnip Green. When we did the interview during the opening reception, it's a 17, 18-minute video, but you can still go and watch that too. So anybody interested in doing a little more, something that we maybe didn't cover in this hour that we're going to be together tonight, you can see more about Chris and they're in there. I'm going to start with Chris this time, since I started Aaron the reception. Chris Simpson goes by Echo Bits and Bots.
Eco Bits and Bots, yeah.
Eco Bits and Bots on Instagram, and he uses found object metal pieces and welds them mostly. I'll let you tell more about that, Chris. Tell us about your process and the things that you create.
Where do you want me to start?
I know we've covered a lot of this stuff before, but I think it's important that people know that how you got your welder. Let's start there, because that's when you started.
Oh yeah, that is
putting them
a
together.
pretty cool story. I mean, I've ridden motorcycles my whole life, and you know, there's just parts laying around everywhere. I've been in and out of motorcycle shops, and there's bits and pieces. It's kind of how I got the name for Bits and Bots. The first piece that I made, what didn't have any welds on it at all, and it was put together from motorcycle piston and the valves. So that guy is pretty awesome. When someone gets that guy, I'll probably have a tear in my eye, and it's nice that he will have a new home. I mean, even some of the pieces at Turnip Green that have sold now, I'm like, I don't own that anymore, and I've had it for a few years. It's kind of sad and awesome to see it go. But my first welder, I started talking to this guy. His name is Fruitcake, and we rode motorcycles for a couple of years, and just right side by side each other, and said, man, I want to get into welding, because he was working at this place putting all these intricate things together, and he's like, I got a welder, I'll bring it by. I show up like 2 weeks later, and there's this old Craftsman welder and a couple stick, it's an old arc stick welder, and I had to actually run it to my stove plug in and then out the door, and it was just really inconsistent, but I fixed my shifter gear with it and got down the road, and it was just a pain to work with, man, the stick welding. And once I got that, another friend of mine, Jody Hamilton from Hamilton Machinery here in town, I mean, he's like 4th generation. He said, we're going to get you a welder that you can work with, man. So I see kind of where you're going with what you want to do, and picked it up. So it's just a flux core welder, and still didn't know exactly what I was doing, not any formal training, just stick and go, and started making some parts. And a lot of people say that they can see myself in the pieces, and it's just, that's kind of cool to hear from a couple people.
Yeah, for sure.
So, a little bit of it came from, okay, Google search whatever I'm wanting to look on, and then I would get idea, that's way too pretty. This is way out of my range. I can't do that. I kind of like this wing. I kind of like this body part. And with what I had, I just fishing through everything underneath my workbench, and just started going from there. And it kind of caught on. I rode the coattails of my my illegitimate mother of 30 years. She was doing a show at Unrequited Leisure. And I was like, how is my stuff going to fit in with your Western paintings? And Chalet just put the show together. And, you know, we were talking about knocking on heaven's boards. She's the one that put that together. And it was kind of cool how it contrasted with her work and my work together. So it was a great show at Unrequited Leisure. Yeah.
It's funny you say that about your work. People saying it reflects who you are, because I totally get that. After seeing your work and then, you know, getting to know you a little bit, I do see that resemblance.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you're not, you know, dressing real clean and neat. And I'm not saying this in a bad way,
What are you
but
saying, man?
your artwork is not super tight and the welds aren't perfect. They splatter a little bit.
Absolutely.
You know, it's got this, you can definitely tell the artist's hand in it. And you're not trying to make it perfect. You're not polishing things after you weld them. You know, you're knocking off a little bit of the slag, but you're letting it be what it is. So
for sure, yeah. Kind of making it, you know, the kind of some of the insects that I use, just the bumps and little tentacles and wispies and stuff like that. I just go with it.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So.
And I wish we could show images as we was talking about this. Mike, can I do a screen share? Oh, yeah, I may have to. I want to show. So here's the
that's the one
you talked about. This is the one that doesn't have any welds on it, which is really cool. It's you know, first made bot, but you know, it's got the face and the resemblance of a puppy dog. So yeah, your first puppy.
Very good.
It's really, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna go to one that's a little more. I really like your Cuban garage. Just that aesthetic of these collage pieces together, these random shapes and they're different sizes and textures and you know, like we talked about, your welds aren't. I mean, it's not like you're putting these tight beads. Yeah, you're putting in, you know, enough to hold these things together. It's kind of like somebody was using glue on an assemblage piece and just letting the glue show, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a cool aesthetic.
And it was kind of hard to put this one to, I had a lot of pieces set out, like, okay, I'm going to use this part for this idea that I have. And, you know, like using that spring in the middle, I was reluctant to put that in. I was like, man, that could really be used for, you know, a snake or, you know, a part of something else. And I just got to the point where it was just there was just so much stuff on my workbench. I was like, it's got to go. It can't be waiting around for this other project that I've got all right, it's just going on there. And I just laid them out. It was just piece after piece that I picked up and I started, all right, no. And I would sit there and I'd be like, no, I really can't just weld it, man. I have to tell myself just to throw it on there. Like the bearings or the spacers I would need for certain little pieces that I usually make. Right. I just started putting it together. So it was kind of and I don't know if you could say a milestone or whatever, but it was just like, and just put it together and see what happens. And this was inspired by a piece I saw in Havana went to Havana, Cuba, and man, the artwork there and what they're recycling and what they have, you know, those 50s cars are running on boat engines. You're like, wait a second, that's not an 8-cylinder. It's like, no, man, I got a boat motor in this thing, you know, or I've got a Russian motor inside this, you know, 50s Dodge or Chevy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the cars are
but
amazing.
It was like a 2-foot tall piece just like this right here. And it looked so much better. Everything was so much tighter and a lot more symmetrical, I guess, than rather just collage and put it together. So I'm going to do a lot more of these pieces because if you put a candle or you put a light inside there, I've done that a couple times. I mean, the silhouettes that it puts inside the house is great.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I can imagine those shapes playing with those on the wall as lights, moving them around.
Yeah, just flicker. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Go ahead.
Chris, I wanted to jump in there because I heard
Sure.
something as somebody who has made a lot of found object sculpture myself and then taught it as well. You said something there that I'm not sure I've really heard too many people talk about, and it's that idea. For a lot of people, they're going to look at that and say, what is he talking about with this idea of like not wanting to use the spring? Like, that's just all junk. But for people who collect junk, like you and I and other people here, when you pick things up, there's this preciousness to them because you're like, how could someone leave this alone? Like, how could someone leave this cool spring in the trash and just throw it on the ground? And so we pick those things up and then they become precious to us the same way a tube of cerulean blue might become precious to a painter. That becomes really precious to us. And so when you talked about letting go and just starting tacking all those things in, someone who might just see that as junk, I just wanted you to understand, I heard you, that breakthrough idea. And my friend Steve-O down in St. Augustine really taught me that. He would just have these incredible found object pieces and he just would use them. And I'm like, man, like you're putting all those into one piece. And he's like, man, more of it's coming along. He's like, the more of it you use, the more of it that's coming. And so
Very good. Yeah.
it's really interesting, that idea, because I have that same thought. I'll find this thing and be like, and then I'll have it for 5 years. And I'm thinking, man, just put it in a work already. Just go ahead and use it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That saying,
Especially for big, for bigger pieces too.
It's a huge breakthrough. It's like, yeah, like these hammerheads, you're just like, you know, they're there and you're like, man, you used both of them on the same sculpture? Wow.
Yeah. It's so true.
This one came together just like that. You know, I had these, it was just like from one side to the other side of the yard. Those have to go together. And this piece came together after the shovel hammer. So it was, it's kind of neat how this piece came together. Yeah, like this one over here. That was, that's actually a number 2. The first one that I made was for the band that I was in, Platypus 9, and I actually used the other one. It was more of a flathead shovel, and I used it on my business card. But I kept this one, and I guess I can keep going into it now, man.
Yeah,
start putting faces in the concrete, or just start layering it that way, and start sculpting it rather than just bleeding it on there. So I'll keep going.
all right, I'm gonna show this one. This is the one you mentioned earlier, the Knocking on Heaven's Boards, which is a really cool piece. And this includes the 2 skateboards and this knocker thing in the middle, you can see, which is really sweet. And a couple springs, and there's a nut behind that. Is that correct?
That's a key.
A key.
Yeah, it's a key that's mounted back there that the knocker goes on to.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, really cool piece.
I actually got those skateboards from, I think it was my first art show at this local skate shop. Friend of mine played music with. It's like we're holding a little local art show, and I made some pieces, and this was up on the wall, and I made a couple other, like the skateboard with the saw blade wheels, and we went in and we curated it, and I don't think that anybody knew that it was artwork on the wall. I think it kind of just fit into the skate shop. They were like, look, this is your coat rack with the wheels and trucks, and it's like, yeah, that's artwork. He's like, oh, I thought it was just part of the motif of the skate shop. It was kind of weird.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions for Chris? And I feel like we could move on to Aaron and let him discuss a little bit about his work, and then if we have some time, I want to be conscious that we'd keep this at an hour, and then we can ask more questions if we have time at the end. So, no hands going up. Aaron,
what's up?
You're up.
Hey.
Hey, man, let's talk about this. I want to know, I mean, we did talk a little bit about you getting your degree in journalism, but
yeah.
was what made you decide to take on journalism as an
Um,
education?
really, when I was in high school, I just did a lot of, we had a lot of clubs for journalism, people that were trying to do something with writing in
Hmm.
school later. And I just had a lot of fun doing it. I loved like getting in between places and trying to see, what kind of info I could dig up. And I just decided to go to college with that in mind. And I left school, I graduated from school, and I just like, well, now I'll start painting. And so yeah. So my parents were pretty confused at first because they were like, I thought that's
Yeah.
what you wanted to go to school for, but at some point you just kind of let your passions just take over. At least that was the case.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and every artist is inspired by something different. We don't all follow the same path. Um, I did get an art degree, but I didn't go to school till I was 37. So I worked all these different things before. I worked in construction, I worked on a towboat, I worked in warehouses, I worked in sales, all these different things led to this creative process that is Randy, that nobody else can be. So
right.
you kind of have that own thing at the age of 24. You've got this journalism background that will somehow influence your work down the road. It definitely, I'm sure it will help in writing about your work.
Right.
So what how do you want to approach this? I know at the
Oh,
reception we started with the boxer and grayscale one and moved around the wall, but do you want to take that same route, or do you have something else in mind?
I could talk about the drawings real quick.
Okay.
For
Yeah, we didn't spend a lot of time on those, did we?
so pretty much how I wanted the first one to start. So I think I made about 15, and I kind of had an idea of what the large scale painting wanted to look like, how I wanted it to look like.
Hmm.
And maybe I was trying to interpret kind of my thoughts on paper just to kind of start. This is the one for boxer and grayscale, but originally the first one I did for boxer and spike gloves. Those were all in charcoal, and I made those. Um, you can kind of see the progression.
Yeah.
The figure kind of saps together, and there's a lot of intense movement as the studies go further, and that's kind of what I was trying to do with really reassessing the how I wanted the skin to be portrayed, how fastly I wanted the paint to travel on the surface, even though I wasn't using paint.
Hmm.
And I guess I just kind of wanted the the muscle mass and the arms to be one of the focal points of the painting. And your ideas can change because these are just studies, but
Hmm.
when I started painting, I kind of had like a new revelation like halfway through. And I didn't really reference these when I started the painting. They were kind of like a warm-up,
Right.
like
Yeah.
before a ballet dancer
Hmm.
starts a major performance. They kind of want to like stretch the limbs, something like that. And
Right.
so I wanted to get my arms, my body just in tune with doing that same motion that I did on paper. And so that's why I started them. And uh, I tried to take different aspects of each charcoal study and kind of merge them into the painting to see which one I liked the most.
Okay.
With some of them, the boxer's head is turned to the left, to the right. Some of them, his eyes are larger than the left eye, larger than the right eye. And so just things like that. I was just kind of playing around with and toying around with how I wanted the last final project to look like and some ideas. So but I was just kind of assessing what I really wanted to do with the painting, because
Right.
no, it can be a lot different than when you draw. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
new.
And I see what you're saying about the studies. I feel like I do that a lot too. It's not necessarily trying to create that same image in a smaller scale so you can do it bigger later. It's just about seeing the things that work and don't work and not putting yourself in a box right off the bat. You'll
Right.
do a bunch of studies and then you pick the best of those and then you try to create larger works from what you've learned.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm gonna pull up a couple more. I know you've done. I I've been meaning to ask you how many these studies you've done, because I know if you go through your Instagram feed for the longest time there, it was just one study after the other. They're really quick sketches.
Right.
Um, so I know you go through a lot of vine charcoal you find there at Turnip Green.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you got
these actually,
stacks of these.
I actually used compressed charcoal for these, and I
Okay.
don't know if you can zoom in, but a lot of my
Yeah.
fingerprints are on the paper, like they're on the there's a lot on the right side, and you kind of see how I was trying to press down on it. I didn't really like that at first because I just thought it made the painting look like dirty and grimy, and
Yeah.
the charcoal was basically smudged, but I just kept them. I kept the fixative on it, and I liked it. So yeah, that was compressed charcoal, and that's a lot. Um, it doesn't come off as easily as vine charcoal does.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little more permanent, isn't it?
Mhm.
There's another spike gloves. Let's see. Yeah, this one's
Yeah, yeah. Those
got some
springboards on the
smudges.
top. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's cool.
And I know, so let's go to you did a couple in this exhibit that are in color. One of
Yeah,
them's not. Let's go to the one that's the chess piece. It's not, and it's got a lot of fingerprints on it.
yeah. Um, that I originally I didn't know if I wanted to do this one in color because I started it in charcoal, but I I don't know, I just had like a pastel set next to me, and this was one of the first pieces where I had actually incorporated pastel again,
Mhm.
and I only used maybe four colors, four to five colors on this, so I just really just took a handful of the pastels, the color shades that I use the most, because I really love using carmine and Naples yellow.
Mhm.
So I use those two for pastel, and yeah, I picked blue and brown because just and they're good colors.
Yeah, good
So
contrast.
yeah, yeah. But I didn't know originally I wanted to use that much pastel in it, and it turned out cool. So but I used to love using pastel, but I got pretty frustrated with it because I was trying to do a lot of effects with like an eraser, and I was trying
Mhm.
to smudge it, with my finger and everything, and it just ended up
Mhm.
being very, very frustrating to me,
I hear you.
and just
Yeah, it's
went through a lot of paper doing
yeah,
that.
yeah. Not having control of our materials when we're creating is sometimes a little frustrating.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go to one of the large scale paintings. I want to pick one that's, what was this, number 2? Yeah, grayscale number 2. And this is where you start using uh, paints. And this one is, oops, I didn't. Yeah, this has got oil, latex, enamel, new spirit on canvas. So you got a lot of materials going on in here, huh?
Mhm.
Isn't this the one where you actually have a newsprint embedded into the
Oh,
painting?
so
Ah,
that was the
he
first.
remembers.
That was yeah that was the first one, but yeah,
Yeah,
there
let
is
me go
some,
back to it.
yeah.
We'll go back to the first. There it is. Yeah, because
Yeah, it's on the bottom
it.
right
There's a
corner.
couple of them. Yeah, it's right there. You can see the newsprint. Yeah, it's got a lot. It's got a good textures in it when you see them in person. So
Um,
this is the first large one you did. for this series, right?
Yep.
You want to tell us about, is there any symbolism, as in, like I see an arrow up here? Any of these objects have any meaning to them, or are these just mark making from your process of loosely drawing?
Okay, so as far as the arrow goes, I actually wanted to, so when I make those lines on the canvas or on paper, I kind of use them as guiding lines to where I want the main features to be. So if you can at the when you see the arrow and this left, yeah, so that left part here, that line right under, that's a straight line through to the middle of the
Ah,
painting. And
okay.
I sectioned it off as an arrow because I didn't want to just have the line just going this way. And
Right.
I thought that I was going to continue and make maybe like another triangle on the right side of the arrow, but I decided not to. And yeah, they're not really random. They're most of them are kind of me just playing around with the paint and trying to see kind of how the black looked against that shade of white, because also in the third one I use different shades of white. It's actually, this one is the third one right here. Yeah, so uh well yeah, this one this has different shades of white in it. On the very bottom there's it's kind of like this muddy cool gray ish, but on the left side there's this almost kind of dark, a kind of sappy gray. It's a lot darker than the other ones in the paintings are. And I tried to make that section kind of just play off by itself, because I like the contrast with the other parts of the painting, and
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. And it's pretty sick when you use different shades of white, when you're not just kind of sticking to one uniform
Right.
color. Because you can see when they dry, it's kind of hard to see when I'm painting, but when it dries, then you can see how they're different when you see them like next to each other. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I went with it. I stopped using latex a lot just because I just love the way enamel dripped more. And also latex dries so fast
Right.
when yeah, that's when I put the newsprint on boxing grayscale 1, I I think I put that on, and within like 20 minutes the a newsprint was pretty much tacked on, so I
Yeah.
didn't have to add anything else to it. So yeah, I hadn't really painted like that with latex before. So I tried to use some that was in my parents' garage, but I just didn't. It was kind of frustrating for me, but yeah.
Okay.
So.
Do you
Okay.
mind telling us more about why you chose the boxer for your inspiration?
Yeah, awesome, sick. Okay, so I I really loved when I was first started making art. I loved seeing how I could make a figure look kind of grotesque, and I was trying to play around with what subject I wanted to do that with, and I started with just like a regular guy, not a stick figure, but like just some dude on the street, just regular run of the mill dude. And I I had this idea to just kind of enlarge the features a little bit, and um, it came out to where I saw something in Raging Bull by Martin Scorsese that kind of it like inspired me to portray a boxer as as kind of in failing health, you know. I had drawn boxing gloves before, but these boxers were in great shape, and I just felt like as I kind of explored the boxer even more, just with a series of really super early drawings, I I loved making them just kind of look grotesque, and it was a lot of fun for me to be able to kind of uh, you know categorize my work in that manner to where I could just paint something and people knew that's what I painted, you know. Not necessarily because I do like to jump from to to different topics and whatnot sometimes, but I kind of like to stick to one theme. And also I felt like with painting a boxing figure, because boxing is already such a gruesome sport, I kind of like I kind of played off of people's fascination with seeing people getting mangled, you know, and just just for entertainment. People are betting on other people, you know, trying to inflict personal damage, beating, you know, the other person to a pulp, and that's just that topic is so fascinating to me.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It kind of takes me back to where, you know, they had. Uh, um, I don't know too much about early history, but when they were quote unquote gladiators, and
Yes.
they didn't fight people, they fought animals, and that was so sick. It must have been so scary, you know, when you just when you just go against this ferocious animal. But I kind of wanted to incorporate that ferocity into my work, and I love making them look like they're, you know, they're overweight, and you know they're basically their bodies are about to give up. And that's kind of how I explained it earlier with you, Randy, when I was talking when we did that little walkthrough. How I I like to make them look like it was towards the ends of their careers and not necessarily like during their primes. And that plays off on a lot of human suffering, but also just kind of how the internal spirit is just still a force between the boxer and uh you know the kind of way that the boxer is staying on the canvas, you know, physically standing on the canvas, but also he's kind of like propped on the canvas. Just he's just here. His body is monstrous, and I feel like it kind of takes on the whole uh, size of the canvas, and that's why I try to make them, you know,
Fill
pretty
the
big.
space.
I mean, that other one was like 92 inches, I think. So the boxing grayscale for yeah. So that yeah. So that one's
Yeah,
90
that's right.
inches.
Yeah,
That
he was a big one. Yeah.
yeah.
Taller than
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, so um but that's kind of how I kind of look at my work. I
Hmm.
try not to be too tongue in cheek, you know, and I like to leave a lot of stuff to the imagination, and that's why I don't really feel like I need to connect a lot of arms or connect a lot of legs, even though I did do it with this piece, but
Yeah.
I'm
What
just
about the video? I noticed that following you on Instagram, your videos that you post a lot of times are kind of like your artwork, as in they don't give a lot of information. It's bits and pieces of your day. Some
yeah.
of it you painting, some of it's of you stretching a canvas, some of it's your friends, you know, just hanging out. It's really interesting. So that makes me think, what does your studio space look like? Are you working in a designated room? Do you paint? I've noticed you in different areas.
Yeah, so I kind of work all around my house. Usually I work in my living room. I don't have a huge I live in an apartment.
Okay.
I don't have a huge space to work with. But when I use charcoal, I always paint or draw inside, and sometimes with enamel, but I'm trying not to just because of the
Yeah.
fumes, and
Right.
it's really easy to get dizzy from that. But when I use oil and any of those, all those large scale pieces, there's I actually have an outside studio that I go to, and I pretty much I gesso all my canvases there. I usually just stretch them in my house, and I move a bunch of
Okay.
furniture around, and
Yeah.
just stretch it, and I carry it down to my studio where I start gessoing and painting. So,
Okay.
but that
Very
goes
cool.
for So go ahead.
So anybody, I don't want to run too long because I know Mike and I both would like to keep these at right about an hour.
Right.
Anybody want to, any other topics you want to ask Chris or Aaron before we move on to anything else?
I like the expressive nature of both of their work, and I'm wondering what they see in each other's work that maybe might come into their own work, if that makes sense. Like, what did Aaron see in showing with Chris that he may kind of borrow or steal, or just made him think about something like, oh wow, that's something I could employ? And the same question for Chris.
Oh, great.
I'll go. I think I was talking about it a little earlier with the shovel hammer and putting the concrete on the face of it. I could do a lot more with the concrete, with the sculpture. I could put faces inside there. I could put figures inside there, or different, make something within the concrete there that you can look at, not just a smear or melting of the concrete, but actually, using something, like his sketches. I could sketch something in the face of the shovel that you would see, maybe that would
Use it as a canvas.
Yeah, just use it as a canvas. I would hope at some point that I think I was talking to him earlier, real preliminary, like right when we were set up with Jennifer set us up, I was like, man, we should do a piece together.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
I should just make a canvas and you should go to town on it. And, you just take a few hours and he could say, no, man, put these pieces in there, and I could say, no, I want that piece for something else. That's for another project. I'm just kidding. Just, man, throw this together. I could use this as a canvas. I could use this. My charcoals will work on this. My, enamel will work on this material, and build a canvas and him work off of that. I think that would be great to really collaborate even more.
Yeah, I can see that.
One other thing was someone asked me about, and I won't go into too much detail, but about the piece that me and my daughter made. I think it was called the Sunbot. Fruitcake showed me a couple preliminary pieces to put together to say, look, man, this is what your welder can do. And my daughter was hanging out one day and she was kind of interested. She's like, can I do that? I was like, it kind of needs a base. Why don't you pick something out? That guy right there. And so she welded this base on there. I don't think I had her welding on anything else before. I had 2 helmets, and I think I may have done one right next to it. And I said, just kind of, just work it like this. And so she put this base on there. So this is put together by a combination of the guy that showed me how to weld and my preliminary, like just starting out, and my daughter. So there's 3 people working on that. So there's a little bit of a story with the sun
Awesome.
there.
Yes, that's a great story.
Aaron, what about you? What did you learn about with showing with Chris? What are some things, some takeaways in seeing the way he went about making work?
That crazy dance piece, I think that's what it was called. Was that what it was called, Chris?
Yeah, I think I just called it dance bots, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, that one was so sick. I really love the kind of expressionist movement of that piece. So
Cool, thanks, man.
you're welcome, dude. I think what I'm gonna do is because like to me it kind of looks like the dude on the left is about to topple over, but he's bolting onto the
Your left or my left, his left. Obviously.
Let's say. So I think I want to do more of the arms flailing in my work, which is a pretty cool topic. I had touched on it before, but that just seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Like a boxer off balance, man. Yeah.
Going to the canvas.
Yes, that'd be sick.
That's really interesting to me because Chris, how tall is this piece?
Roughly 8
7
inches. Yeah, the twisted parts were just cut off of like stock coming into a machine.
I love how a small sculpture could influence a big painting. You know, like I just think that that's so cool how conversations with artists, like it doesn't, like Aaron wasn't like, well, that's got nothing to do with what I'm doing. It's tiny and it's small and it's metal and it's, you know, and he's like, no, I the arms flailing. I just think that that's really fascinating how when you are in group shows or in two-person shows, that if you're paying attention, you can really get a lot of information and like a lot of great suggestions and feedback just from what the other person's making and how it rhymes with your work. Jennifer, did you put these two artists together? How did that curatorial process happen?
That was more Jake and Randy too, right? You and Jake had a conversation about it. You know, we take our, well, I should say they really take our application submissions and work together to find ones that, this is something we talk about from just a viewer's perspective. Like, we never would have imagined like how well Chris and Aaron's work together, but they really do. And like, not to go into previous shows, but previous shows too, like our January show, I would never put those two artists together, but Randy and Jake did a beautiful job with these two so far. And I'm sure they're going to be great moving forward.
I can't take credit for that because it's funny. I didn't know who he paired Aaron with. I reached out to Aaron about the show, but I didn't know at that time that he was pairing him with an artist that was making things out of metal. So I was just as surprised as you. And whoever he's consulting with or the decisions he's making, he's done a great job, because there's been a couple shows I've helped install that the work was just like it was like they had worked together for years, and it's a perfect fit. So, and
I will say too, just even from like a logistics, just like perspective on the back end, I think the artists, like you can tell Chris and Aaron like communicated well and working up to the show, and they came up with a title beautifully together. Like there is collaboration that, you know, needs to happen, and they need to communicate and they need to email, and that's great that they were doing that. So there's like a chemistry there too that works, you know.
I agree. Yeah, it's unfortunate that not all artists will communicate before a show, and especially before installing the show, because during install, I like, and now that I've done several of them, I like having that input from the artists. I think it's important, them seeing how the work influences one another, and then by hanging it in a certain way, you can make a better statement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Christopher, down in Memphis, man, you're quiet down there, but I know you're.
Yeah, I'm just taking it all in.
What are you thinking down there?
You know, I had one of my students. I was looking at Aaron's work, and one of my students in my art club was like, "Are we gonna do things where we like kind of we abstract the figure a little bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, but you know, I never know how to." I guess like I'm so in my brain, I'm always structured. You know, I'm always like. Yeah. You know, there has to be a form. So I never know how to like introduce that to them. And I think it's cool how you just kind of are free. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to have that design. Like I have to have recognition somewhere in that picture. And I
Christopher, have you seen his video clips he does on Instagram? He shows some of his sketches as he's drawing that figure, and he's influenced me when it comes to getting in the studio and just wanting to play and being free with your arm and your hands when you're drawing something, and taking that structure out. Because sometimes, I'm like you, I feel like I have to have everything's got to be in its box.
Yes.
So it was fun to see the way he creates those images.
Aaron, I'm pretty sure I just heard Christopher say he's going to start teaching your work to kids down in Memphis, which is
I
how cool's that?
I am. I'm happy to influence in the young lads. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like that was the first question you asked me was about abstract, and he's like, because I love this type of work, and I pulled up a picture for him. I'm like this one, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, and I'm like, man, it's going to be hard for me to teach you that.
I love it.
Like now I can use one of your videos, and I was looking at Chris's work. And it put me in the frame of mind. It put me in the frame of mind of steampunk, I guess. Are you influenced by that?
Just say that. No.
So, yeah, no.
I never thought about it, but I've heard that a lot when I do,
Yeah.
you know, like booth shows and stuff like that. I've heard that. Yeah. I don't, yeah, it kind of goes along with that. I mean, I'll go with the audience. It's hard to find an audience with what I'm doing. It really is. Another thing that I'm doing since I've got the time, I guess, is everybody was asking about teaching workshops and getting the insight on that or who's doing it. One thing that's going on is Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center up in Hendersonville. I taught a couple mosaic classes up there for kids during COVID, in and out, and it went really well. And we made a really nice piece out by their gazebo, and just all around that place. Holly's awesome up there, Cheryl's awesome up there, and they're really trying to get the kids in there, and they have a great space and they're making it happen. So just check into some of their stuff that they have going on up there. And I mean, it's a great facility if you've never been up there, and they have some great shows going on. So I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, is that the Monthaven? Is that what's the official name? It's a nonprofit.
Monthaven
right?
Arts and Cultural Center.
Okay.
Randy, I dropped it in the chat. Anybody that needs to see that there. And while we're speaking of the chat, I would love it if everyone would put your name and then your Instagram and or Twitter or social media in the chat. So that way we can, you know, Aaron, will you start us off doing that? And then, because I think one of the things that we're really one of the things that we want to happen from this is that we all dive into Chris's work and we all dive into Aaron's work, and that Aaron would then see other people's work who are following him and continue to grow that so that we can be really supportive. Certainly Number Magazine, one of our goals is to support and advocate for artists, and a way that we can do that is kind of, you know, not just for this conversation, but even moving forward is to really center people in looking at Aaron's work and Chris's work and what they're up to. And so, yeah, if everyone would put that in there, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then we'll have this recording up. Are you going to do this like you've done the ones in the past, Mike, where it's on Spotify, or are you going to do a recording for Number to put on the website?
I don't know exactly how we're doing it. I've never put the video up before.
Yeah, we just had the audio.
But we have it now, and so I'll work on that and figure out. I think that it would be really cool, especially since we were able to see Chris's work and Aaron's work with you doing the screen share. I think that Deshaun just came on and asked where it's going to be. So I think people will watch it. I think that it can be really useful, and I think that my experience has been, even if people don't use it immediately, I mean, even if it just becomes, if all it is helpful for Christopher in Memphis to show his students, then it will be extremely useful forever, right? Like it'll be worth us all doing that if he can change a kid's understanding of how to do stuff because they're looking at Chris's work or Aaron's work. And so I think that will be valuable. And then I think that, you know, people are looking for this. They're starving for content right now, and I think that it will even be moving forward. And so yeah, so I'll figure out how we're going to do that, and I have a couple days off, so it'll be a fun thing to work on. So we might want to tie it up. Janie, you have been quiet down there. Where are you joining us from, Janie?
Oh, you're muted.
There we go. I'm in Jackson.
Jackson, awesome.
There we are. I'm in Jackson, and I
Great.
teach art as well. My middle school students are working on a project right now where they're doing a piece about their identity, and it's supposed to be an abstract self-portrait. And I love what I've been seeing today. I felt that I had the same thoughts Christopher did, as I can't wait to show this to my students next week. So, because I was showing them some images anyway, and they love it. All my kids love it when I show them an artist that's currently working instead of some old dead guy, no the guys, but
yes,
they like artists.
Very cool.
Randy, I think you could get something going on at Turnip Green, for kids and the workshops. And I think that would be spectacular. I'd love to, volunteer some of that time and you know, it's something that kids can go home with. It's something that they can put in stone and they will see it from years to come. So it's something to think
Yes,
about,
I
even
agree.
with, we, from canvas to concrete. It'd be awesome
Oh, yeah.
with
I
turnip
agree.
green. Yeah.
Mhm. For sure. Okay. Anything else,
Randy,
Mike, before we wrap up?
Yeah, Randy, go ahead, go ahead and wrap us up. Thanks, y'all, for being here. I'm
Yeah,
really
I just want
excited
to
about it.
thank, yeah,
Thank you, Aaron and Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was sick.
yeah, it was great to see you guys again, and share with your friends. We'll get this video clip recorded. Mike will have a link that we can share, and hopefully we can expand beyond the Nashville. Now we've been Jackson and in Memphis, so yeah, we'll keep this thing going. We'll talk to you guys soon. Hope to see you on the next one too. Take care.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
You guys,
Thanks,
thank
Mike.
you.
There we are.
Dude, that was awesome.
That was great. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. We did this tonight. I think waiting would have been. I think doing it early, we got everybody at home, so we had a better turnout. And now we can share the video clip, and I think more people will watch it too on their own time.
Yeah, so this is part of the recording now. So I just wanted, maybe we should do this, is like follow up. I thought both of those guys did great on the, on the talk. I thought that, I liked tonight that it was kind of a small chat. And I can't believe it. I'm really curious. I'm excited to where, like, how Janie found out about us. So I can't wait to find out, like, and to me, that's always so much fun, is to have that mixture of full-time artists, but also art teachers, and then art professors. Like, that's such a fun thing. And for me, I think that's a perfect example of how, because of Educators Cooperative, because of Turnip Green, because of Number Inc., because they're all three pulling from slightly different places, but then all overlapping with what we're all up to.
Right.
It's just going to open up. I mean, if you tell me as an artist, like, hey, I'm going to invite you to this art talk, and as a result of that, like, kids in Memphis, Tennessee and Jackson, Tennessee are going to start looking at you as an artist that is in their head, I say yes to that every time.
It's pretty awesome
I
idea.
would pay to be part of that,
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really cool thing. So, man, thanks again for setting this up.
For sure.
I think I've gotten everybody's info here. I tried to save it to the chat. I mean, I tried to save the chat, so that'll be something that I'll be able to kind of push out, and I'll just keep you posted on how we do these things. So
I love it.
all right, man.
Fun,
Thanks,
man. The
everybody,
more we
for
do, the better
watching.
it'll get.
If you're still watching us right now, make sure to follow us on Number Inc. on Instagram. I'm Mike Mitchell, aka Mike Windy. That's Randy Purcell, and you can find both of us through Number Incorporated or Turnip Green Creative Reuse or the Educators Cooperative.
Man, all
See you,
these
Randy.
cool places. Take care, everybody. Bye.